Moby Dick by Herman Melville, a short and concise audio summary by 10 Minutes Books. Introduction. Moby Dick, published in 1851, is a novel by American author Herman Melville. It's considered one of the greatest works of American literature, blending adventure, philosophy, and symbolic depth. The story is narrated by Ishmael, a sailor on the whaling ship Pequod, under the command of Captain Ahab. Ahab is obsessed with hunting down Moby Dick, a giant white sperm whale that previously maimed him, and this obsession drives the narrative. Plot overview. N. The novel begins with the famous line, "Call me Ishmael," as the narrator introduces himself and his reasons for joining a whaling expedition. Seeking adventure and escape from his previous life, Ishmael arrives in New Bedford, Massachusetts, where he plans to join a whaling voyage. There, he befriends Queequeg, a tattooed cannibal harpooner, and the two men sign up to sail on the Pequod. As they prepare to depart, the ship's owners, Peleg and Bildad, introduce them to Captain Ahab, who remains unseen initially. They also warn Ishmael and Queequeg about Ahab's peculiar behavior. The ship sets sail on Christmas Day, and it is only after they are far from land that Captain Ahab finally emerges. He is a tall, strong man with a whalebone leg, the result of an encounter with the infamous Moby Dick. Ahab reveals to the crew that their true mission is not just whaling for profit, but to hunt down and kill Moby Dick, the great white whale that cost him his leg. He offers a gold doubloon as a reward for the first man to sight the whale, solidifying his single-minded pursuit. The crew, though wary, becomes complicit in Ahab's vendetta. As the Pequod sails through various oceans, the novel delves into the intricacies of whaling and the diverse backgrounds of the crew. These digressions provide rich detail about the industry, the anatomy of whales, and the cultural and religious diversity among the sailors. However, the central narrative remains focused on Ahab's obsession with Moby Dick. The journey is marked by encounters with other ships, each providing a different perspective on whaling and Ahab's quest. Some captains warn Ahab of the dangers of pursuing Moby Dick, while others share stories of their own encounters with the whale. These meetings, known as gams, serve to heighten the tension and foreshadow the eventual confrontation. As the Pequod approaches the equator, the tension on board increases. Ahab's obsession deepens, and he becomes more isolated, communing only with his first mate, Starbuck, who tries to reason with him. Starbuck represents a voice of sanity and caution, often questioning Ahab's motives and the risks he imposes on the crew. Despite his misgivings, Starbuck is unable to prevent the inevitable clash between man and nature. The final encounter with Moby Dick occurs over 3 harrowing days. The crew, exhausted and fearful, battles the whale, but Moby Dick proves to be an almost supernatural force of nature. On the first day, the whale damages the Pequod's boats and escapes. On the second day, Moby Dick rams the Pequod, further weakening the ship. Despite the growing danger, Ahab refuses to relent. On the third day, the climactic battle unfolds. Moby Dick destroys the Pequod's boats, and in a final act of defiance, Ahab throws his harpoon at the whale. The harpoon line wraps around his neck, dragging him into the sea. Moby Dick then rams the Pequod, sinking it and leaving the crew to perish in the ocean. Ishmael, who had been thrown clear of the ship during the final battle, survives by clinging to Queequeg's coffin, which had been repurposed as a lifeboat. He drifts for days until he is rescued by the Rachel, a ship searching for its own lost crew. Ishmael, the sole survivor, lives to tell the tale. Themes. Obsession. A central theme in Moby Dick is Ahab's obsessive quest for revenge against the white whale. This obsession consumes him, driving him to forsake all reason, morality, and the safety of his crew. Melville explores how obsession can lead to self-destruction, illustrating the dangers of allowing a single-minded pursuit to override all other aspects of life. Fate vs. free will. Throughout the novel, characters grapple with the concepts of fate and free will. Ahab believes he is fated to confront Moby Dick, and his determination to do so reflects his struggle against this perceived destiny. Meanwhile, other characters, like Starbuck, emphasize the importance of free will, questioning Ahab's decisions and the morality of their mission. The nature of evil. Moby Dick delves into the nature of evil, both in the form of Ahab's vengeful pursuit and the whale itself. Moby Dick is often interpreted as a symbol of nature's indifferent power or as a representation of a malevolent force. The novel raises questions about the existence of evil in the world, and whether it is an external force or something that resides within individuals. Isolation. Ahab's isolation, both physical and psychological, is a recurring theme. His obsession with Moby Dick isolates him from the crew, from his family, and from humanity as a whole. Ishmael's own isolation as the lone survivor of the Pequod reflects the broader human condition and the existential loneliness that Melville explores. Religion and philosophy. The novel is rich with religious and philosophical references, from biblical allusions to discussions of predestination and existentialism. Characters like Father Maple, who delivers a sermon early in the novel, and Queequeg with his pagan beliefs, represent the diverse spiritual perspectives of the time. Melville uses these elements to explore questions of faith, morality, and the human condition. Characters. Ishmael, the novel's narrator. Ishmael is a reflective and philosophical figure. His observations and musings provide insight into the events of the novel and the broader themes Melville explores. As the sole survivor of the Pequod, Ishmael's role is both as a participant and a witness to Ahab's tragic quest. Captain Ahab, the monomaniacal captain of the Pequod. Ahab is a complex character driven by his obsession with Moby Dick. His charismatic leadership and unyielding determination inspire both fear and loyalty among the crew, but ultimately lead to his downfall. Ahab's character embodies the dangers of obsession and the limits of human will. Queequeg, a skilled harpooner from the South Seas. Queequeg is Ishmael's close friend and one of the most memorable characters in the novel. His tattoos, religious beliefs, and noble demeanor make him a symbol of the novel's exploration of cultural diversity and the universal human experience. Starbuck, the first mate of the Pequod. Starbuck is a Quaker who represents reason and morality. He often serves as a foil to Ahab, questioning the captain's decisions and the righteousness of their mission. Starbuck's internal conflict between duty and conscience highlights the novel's themes of free will and ethical responsibility. Moby Dick, the great white whale. Moby Dick is a powerful and enigmatic force in the novel. Though he is largely absent from the narrative until the final chapters, his presence looms over the entire story. Moby Dick symbolizes different things to different characters: nature's power, fate, evil, and the unknown. Stubb and Flask, the second and third mates of the Pequod. Stubb is easygoing and humorous, while Flask is more aggressive and pragmatic. Both men provide contrast to Starbuck's seriousness and Ahab's intensity, adding depth to the portrayal of life aboard the Pequod. Symbolism. Moby Dick, the whale itself, is a complex symbol, representing the inscrutable forces of nature, the limits of human knowledge, and the embodiment of evil. To Ahab, Moby Dick is the source of all his suffering, but to others, the whale is just another creature of the sea. The Pequod, the whaling ship, is a microcosm of the world with its diverse crew and varying perspectives. It also symbolizes the journey of life and the pursuit of goals, whether they be noble or misguided. The white whale. The color white in Moby Dick carries multiple meanings, from purity and innocence to terror and the unknown. The whiteness of the whale intensifies its symbolic power, making it both alluring and terrifying to Ahab and the crew. The coffin. Queequeg's coffin, which becomes Ishmael's lifeboat, symbolizes death and resurrection. It represents the duality of life and death, and how one can lead to the other. The coffin also reflects the novel's broader themes of fate, survival, and the cyclical nature of existence. Conclusion. Moby Dick is a profound exploration of human nature, obsession, and the mysteries of the universe. Melville's rich language, deep symbolism, and philosophical insights make the novel a timeless classic. The tragic tale of Captain Ahab's pursuit of the great white whale serves as a cautionary story about the dangers of letting obsession and revenge dictate one's life. Through its complex characters, intricate themes, and vivid depiction of life at sea, Moby Dick remains a masterpiece that continues to captivate readers and inspire new interpretations. Ishmael's survival and recounting of the tale ensured that the story of the Pequod and its doomed crew will endure, reminding us of the perils of human hubris and the inexorable power of nature.